Agenda. Everybody got? Okay, I got it 2 copies. So.
Oh. Turn the sound on.
Are you on Zoom then
Yeah,
as well? Okay.
I know, no one's there, but you know, when we're doing it, I have to do it so that they can go and people can ask for it if they want. Say recording in progress, so.
Okay.
Just warning you.
We're taking your word for it.
Walton.
Here.
Hubble absent. Butler.
Here.
Cosgrove.
Here.
Slopesma.
Here. All right. Any adjustments to the meeting agenda?
I've got a couple notes that I want to make sure we talk about.
Okay.
And I have to admit, I did not drive past there. I meant to on the way here. Tennis nets. I'm not sure if they're up yet or not. And then mowing of Battle Creek and Lossy trails. I realize those 3 things probably Cheryl would answer, but
I
think
can
it's important
probably
to
at
talk to
least
about it.
give you an update for BCNA and Lassie a little bit anyway. Talk about that as we start talking about trips and stuff. Okay, good. All right, any declarations of conflict of interest? Any public comment? Anything on Zoom? Okay. Approvals of the March 14th regular meeting minutes. I have to bring that up because I will be honest, I did not get a chance to. Oh, I don't see it in the packet.
It's there because I printed this. I printed it from the packet. It's right there if you want to read it.
All I have is the April 11th agendas.
I didn't see that either.
I don't have any documents.
Well, maybe we have to do that next month because you're right. It was the agenda. That's why I have 2 agendas in my.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have 2 agendas. You printed it two agendas twice. Gotcha. Okay,
Okay,
we'll have to move that to next month.
postpone.
Is it on the website?
Yes.
Okay. Any correspondence other than what we're probably gonna dive into a little bit further with project updates and things of that nature? Reports, presentations, announcements. I guess I will probably talk a little bit. I don't really have a formal report, but I did attend, on occasion, I attend these webinars about trail systems. And sometimes it's about maintenance of trail systems, sometimes it's about how to fund it. You know, this one happened to be on grants, you know, the specific three funding through different organizations. 2, unfortunately, were based on federal lands, so that doesn't apply to us. But the third one, I think, does apply to us. And so, unfortunately, the deadline is really quick, but I just wanted to throw it out there and see what your guys' thoughts were. This is by American Trails. And American Trails, like as I said, they're nationwide, you know, they do all kinds of different types of trails. Biking seems to be one of their fortes, but they also do nature trails, walking trails, even waterways that actually they've mentioned in this particular webinar. So they are putting together, they're forming grants that it's kind of, they're just kicking this off this year. And so they have so far donations of about 55,000 that they're dispersing. So that probably the chance of us getting it, just because it is such a small dollar value, I wouldn't say is very, very high, but I figured it's worth maybe looking into. So they do this particular trail grant, they're asking for maintenance. Actually, no, kind of. There's three main things. Three main things that they want to put these funds toward. Trail maintenance, stewardship training, and research. So this is not for new trails. This isn't for trying to convert something to comply with ADA necessarily. But the reason that they've done this funding this way is a lot of places don't seem to have the maintenance money. The maintenance budget tends to be the harder things to get a hold of for money. So anyway, so there is online an application to put together. It just talks about what kind of project it is. And here's my thinking. And maybe I should back up a step about talking about the budget. So at the last budget meeting that I attended, and I think you were online, attended that meeting. The decision from the board was to approve the budget with basically funds for the tree removal and the funds to complete the dugout project. I felt like I was bashing my head against the wall because I don't think a word was heard. But essentially my three things were, I wanted the board to discuss in this process. Number one, as Tom has mentioned in past meetings, what happens when we get a project and the board approves that budget for that year? And it's always been conveyed to us that once a project has been approved and the budget has been approved, it doesn't necessarily have to happen in that particular year, that it's just going to float into the next year. That is not the case this year. They have taken away all of our funding in terms of budget to do anything with trails. So Lossy Trail, BCNA trails, budget, there's no funding for it. So that was my first thing was, hey, what is the process? If we didn't use this budget money that was approved last year or even the year before, frankly, what happens to that budget money allocations that never get spent? My second point was.
Okay, let's pause on that. So what you're saying then, the new policy of the board is we either have to use it or lose it during that budget year.
That was never formally discussed or told in that framework, but that's essentially what they're doing.
So then we can't look at doing anything over a 10-month period.
Kind of what I said at the end of the public comment.
Or what I guess what we
Our
could
hands are
do
essentially tied.
is if we did do it, I guess we could prepay somebody 20 grand.
From a sense that the work wasn't done.
Yeah, but prepay. If they
Right.
want a $20,000, let's say the whole bid for whatever project
Yeah.
is, let's say it's 20 grand,
Mhm.
say, fine, well, here's your check.
Yeah.
So, that affects new business projects for 2022. So we can only do short-term things.
And this year we can't do even that. As it stands right now with the budget. Literally, they have taken away all capital improvement budget funds.
So, I did not sit through all the budget meetings. I probably sat through.
Because it was 90 million hours.
Yeah, it wasn't real efficient, honestly. And it was, when I tried to look at the documents, it was painful to say the least. So, but I would say that as kind of the devil's advocate on what they did, and I wasn't the decision maker, taking funds and keeping it from other projects in the township when you don't have a fully developed vetted plan to execute, I can understand why they might be resistant to that. Like we need to be doing our homework, developing the plan, developing the timeline, developing the cost. So you're ready to execute, you know, at the state level, they call this shovel ready projects. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but my point is that
It is. If it's
and I know that we have a lot of special circumstances. If I use the dugouts, for example, is probably the worst example to use as far as a relatively quite simple project protracted over 4 to 5 years. It's pretty painful to look at that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really reasonable to say that it would take this long. And I know there's lots of reasons, a lot of, yeah, if then, but okay, I get that because I was part of that and I contributed to that. But at the same time, I can understand why they wouldn't want to set aside, you know, a chunk of money and keep another worthy project from being done on something that's not executable in the budget year. I can understand why they would want you to be in a planning phase until you're really ready to execute. So I'm just throwing that
Yeah,
out
but
there.
that was already allocated. That's my point. That money was already allocated to the project.
And it was really
And
for
so we just didn't,
the upfront engineering services, not even the project itself, because we are still in planning stages. It wasn't even about, we want to, as they call shovel ready, right? We don't have plans, we don't have site plans, we don't have civil, we don't have anything to go. We really needed the assistance of an engineering firm or
Oh, okay.
DNR. And that was really all we were asking for funds to do, to start that process.
So maybe they didn't fully understand that. I don't know.
I don't-
Again, I wasn't a decision maker, but I would just say, and I have come to realize that sometimes you need, like you're saying, professional resources in order to develop a concept. But I guess in the case of the Grand Traverse Land Conservancy, I believe that they agreed to work for free. But then some other entities like the DNR, didn't they just need a tiny amount of money?
Right,
To develop a concept.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's always a possibility that people didn't understand order of magnitude. I'm not sure. But I think your comment's interesting because I sat through some of those last meetings and I wasn't just duffing off and I didn't quite take that item away. So.
Oh, I did. And the other part that I was trying to make, the point that I was trying to make was in the budget, if you look under the general funds and there was another specialty fund area, they have these things called emergencies, contingencies. There's $100,000 set aside, and it was set aside last year too. I'm sorry, but a tree storm that has happened, what, every decade, maybe, is now all of a sudden being taken away from a capital project funding aspect in the Parks and Rec versus going through the process of it being really truly an emergency fund situation. So that was one of my other points.
Yeah, I want to back up. I didn't mean to get in the weeds with, you know, the dugouts or reason why. I guess that for our future planning then, okay, then should we be looking at only planning things that we can pay for and get done? And when does the budget end? What are, we're not on calendar, right?
It's like
April
April
1st.
through the following
So,
March.
so whatever project, well, we get nothing now, so forget about this year, right? Okay, so for next year, I guess, 2023, I guess we should only look at projects that we can get done and spent and finish in that time period.
And
Or
then,
we're gonna lose it. Is that how this body's gonna move forward then?
by their budget that they approved, that was definitely what they did. But in terms of process or procedure, no, that was never answered. It was not said in those frank words that if you don't use it, you lose it, so to speak.
So I guess that if we do a project, and if we want to do a project, whatever it might be, we send that motion to the board, then we should be very specific with that motion on what our time frame is. I mean, I think we have to be very careful because we don't really know, correct?
Yeah, but so I understand your point. So even if we said, okay, we want funding for this project and we expect this project to last 2 years. There's nothing that says in the following year, they still won't take it out of the budget. I mean, in my eyes.
But at any
based on the
time,
actions that just
I guess
happened.
that they could pull money, that's their
Yeah.
right, you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
So this
So-
also doesn't include Whitewater Township projects though, from what you're saying though.
No,
because
this
my
is just the
understanding
rec.
is- Right, but Parks and Rec is supposed to include.
It's
Whitewater.
totally, nope, 2 separate budgets.
Okay, 2 separate budgets, but they talk about it collectively when they set the park budget. So I do know there was a lot of talk about, and it's in your packet this time, pit toilets, playground rearrangement, boat launch. There's a little bit of talk about fixing the beach. But there were very significant financial draws on
With the
resources
park.
coming out of Whitewater Township Park. And I think there's even something in the packet tomorrow for the township meeting is full of park money. I mean, it's got the dugouts in it, but it also has some kind of little road improvement thing going on, which I didn't know anything about that, and the playground thing, and
That's
yeah, so
kind of the
there's,
same thing.
it's loaded up
Mhm.
tomorrow's meeting,
Mhm.
full of park projects, so
Yeah.
I'm just kind of throwing out there that there was a lot of park money. I understand that it's not showing up at Lossy and BCNA and
Right,
not
these are
Whitewater.
Totally, capital projects for the parks was already in motion, the boat launch expansion,
Right.
the playground and the those are somewhat maintenance, but somewhat also projects. So the parks funding, yes, that had a larger number to it. Of course, they also have larger funding, right? Their revenues, the
Well,
park
yes, they have
makes,
an income source.
right. And so the big thing with the rec budgets is they differentiate that and there is really not really revenue generated, so to speak.
So then this
On that
board really
list.
has nothing to do with the boat launch or the,
You
or
know,
any of, or even,
we're an advisory committee and we're
Even-
supposed to be for Parks and Rec. I would say that Cheryl brings us in terms of informationally, but that we're not always brought in to advise on necessarily a lot of those projects. I think
There's
that's,
several times she has said that her intervention
yes,
on Whitewater.
so we have down park pit toilets as unfinished business as an example. Is that even part of what we should be doing here?
historically, we have not had a big say in those projects. Obviously, if she wants to put it on our agenda and have our discussions of, the pit toilet, I mean, that's totally fine. I mean, she's giving us, like I said, she's giving us more informational things, I think, than anything else. It's not, I mean, we're an advisory committee.
I understand that.
We
We hear
can-
that 100 times during the meeting,
I know.
you know?
We can give them our 2 cents on what this looks like and maybe, give,
Mhm.
suggestions or whatever opinions on if it should be changed or whatever, but essentially, historically, we don't really have much say on the park side of it. So
Okay,
yeah, there's no hard fast rule, I
Right.
wouldn't say on that side of it.
Well, I
It's-
think one of the other things that's kind of hard about this that I've been concerned about as I sat through the budget thing is this. And I have not found anybody that can tell me with full confidence. Is it really legally binding that we can only use revenue from Whitewater Township Park, such as pavilion rentals, camping rentals? Is it really legally binding that we can only pour that money back into that park, or maybe redistribute it to our other parks? Or for that matter, redistribute it within the township? And I have asked that question, and that nobody I have found has had a firm answer to that.
From a
And
legal
that's-
binding aspect.
Yeah, it frustrates me. I understand if there's been a policy or a way of doing business, but that doesn't mean it's legally required. And so I personally think that, I mean, I would like to see a better answer to that, especially as the township really is struggling with the road commission right now. They're cutting funding to maintain our roads. And to your point, I noticed that we were able to clean up down trees at Whitewater Township Park, but we're not able to clean them up at our other parks. So why is that? You know, to me, that seems not quite fair, you know, and I know the down trees, particularly on Lossy Trail, frustrated a lot of hunting people this fall. And I haven't actually been to BCNA to see how bad the tree down there is. I did go to Lossy Trail, but it just kind of frustrates me that I swear we're one of the last parks to be cleaned up, like everybody else's parks that I know of in the area are cleaned up, because you read about it in the newspaper. And so we're like the last guy to the party, and I don't understand why. I guess, and it's a bit off topic, but it would be nice to know. It would be a
Again,
lot
it's-
easier to manage your parks as a whole if you had a little bit more freedom with your funds.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think if we truly had a director that didn't have to go through every single time, go through board approval, there could be a little bit more leniency towards, i.e. an emergency fund usage to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
You know, I
Well,
agree.
and I think we saw that played out in our survey of the township residents, that they didn't think that only Whitewater should be taken care of. They had a lot of opinions that were, I think, a little eye-opening to all of us, that a lot of people wrote in a lot of comments about wanting improvements to Lossy and Battle Creek.
Yeah, there was definitely.
And that, yeah. They wanted it Whitewater too, but it wasn't just Whitewater.
Mhm.
So Melissa, getting back to your other point before I stopped you, was the funds for tree removal, that's coming out of the rec money, not in emergency fund money.
It's coming out of the rec funds, correct? Which was their reasoning of why they took away any other capital funds, is my takeaway. I don't know what that was, but you know, because they're operational and budget costs, you know, they go through budgets, they obviously were trying to cut where they could cut, and I think that was an easy cut to make because
Do we have money to finish the dugouts?
they approved that money.
The
Yeah.
dugouts is getting.
The dugouts-
It's on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting
Yeah.
again, because it was another
Right.
change.
So, so anyway, so at that budget meeting, my point to this whole thing was they essentially are saying they're putting all of their ducks in the tree removal, right? So my thought is, if we can find some additional funding for trail improvements, we could, in this grant that's due here at the end of the week, it could go towards either tree cleanup project. We could also submit it for the Lossy Trail improvements to get the water off of the trail, as well as the bridge, if we wanted to incorporate that into the project. They're generally speaking, they put grant funds out. They're targeting about 2,000 to 15,000 project range. And they want 20% project match. Thank you. My word. So because we don't have matching funds approved in the budget for the other two, I think our only potential is to put it towards the tree removal, and in hopes that we can then go to the board and say, hey, we applied for this grant money. If we can get this grant money to go towards the tree removal that's already been in the budget and approved to move forward, can we then have that reallocated to some other projects, capital projects that we truly wanted to move forward this year? Because the other aspect that's really frustrating, if we cannot have a budget approved until April 1st of 2023, guess when the DNR requires to have any of their grants inputted into their system? before March 31st. So essentially, we're losing a whole entire year. If we say this year, we did a lot of research and we worked with a company that maybe is going to give our free evaluation. I'm just hoping that they will. If that's the case, and if we can move forward and get a kind of a game plan and start submitting that to the board for approvals, it's still not in the budget for approvals. And so I think then if we can't get it into the DNR to try to get a grant money for that, then we unfortunately are going to lose an entire year to try to move that project forward. That's my biggest concern.
And so what do you want us to do?
Well, I guess I'm feeling like the only way we're going to have a chance to move that, the trail aspect forward, is to help find other grant funds. And that was why I attended this webinar, thinking, if, whether it's this or whether it's other grant funds, I'm just looking at ways of going to the board and saying, hey, if we can find some other additional funds to remedy the tree budget, can that be then reallocated towards positive, proactive trail improvements, safety? I mean, all those things. So,
And this group you found is not state or federally based, it's more like private funding.
so it's I would say it's just a North American. Yeah.
So did you want to go to the board tomorrow and bring that up, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
What I think, because I don't know the ins and outs of the rules of applying for grants, so I'm gonna have a discussion with Cheryl, but I don't feel that trying to apply for a grant should require a big hula to get board approval.
So what do you
Yeah.
want from us? Do you want?
Kind of
any
your
motion?
thoughts. Yeah, I mean, just, is it something that we should try to push forward? Is it something we should just, let
think-
things lie and not?
I think we should try. We can't do anything.
What have we got to
anything
lose
else.
if we try?
Someone's time, and that's about it.
That's about it.
But I think continuing to find out from the DNR, and maybe the Conservancy knows about this too, is how else could we potentially find, state-based things? I know that was the big thing about doing the rec plan, right? That's what I remember Cheryl saying was,
Absolutely.
because we
To
were
get
late in
funds.
doing the rec plan, we lost out on a year's worth of grants. But honestly, I have zero experience in grants. I've never worked on that at all to know,
Yeah.
what's involved in it.
But
But I would
every
think-
project is a little bit different, but essentially for the DNR grant projects, there is a certain amount of, you have to have you talked about it being a shovel-ready project. It's basically to that point where you have to have plans, you have to have quotes, you have to have an established, precedence of how you're going to complete this project. Go to that, and you have to have budget approval, right? Because they are expecting, I think it's 50-50 matching, so whether the board would give us some leeway on that this year so we can apply for a budget, I don't know. So I'm just trying to, I guess, find a way to allocate some extra funds that might then achieve some of that progress. That's kind of, so anyway, so that was kind of my long and short of it. So it sounds like you guys don't have a problem. I go to Cheryl and say, hey, I think this might be a good thing to apply for. And
I think if nothing else, it's a learning experience.
I
We
mean,
should find out, what
right.
office at the state does.
at the state levels,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The state or the Conservancy probably knows,
yeah.
or has somebody that knows about this stuff. I would think they have knowledge.
And actually, the ARPA monies that everybody's getting, a lot of people are talking about putting it into parks.
Oh, absolutely. And what was I told at the meeting? It was a 500-page document or something like that. I don't know. I was given some big, like when I asked the kind of the general statement of what can be used, and that was,
I think it's kind of
yes.
about it.
But I have read on both parks newsletters as well as on playground equipment newsletters, how people are using these funds. So I know that that's an appropriate thing to be able to use them for. But anyway, I digress. Do you guys mind if I take a pause and just step back to public comment to see if public has comment? Would that be all right? Okay. We made our meeting minutes agenda go really quickly, so I just wanted to give you the opportunity, if you did have any public comments, if you wanted. Okay,
I do. So I've not ever been to one of these meetings before,
okay.
but do I have to go over there?
Yes, and you have to pay us each $10.
We'll get funding one way or another.
Yeah, we'll get funding somewhere.
So I know some of you and some of you I don't know, but my name is Vicki Emerson. And I actually live on Park Road. And I'm very familiar with Whitewater Township PRAC, so that's why I'm here tonight. And all I can think of is hearing you guys talking is, you need what I have to say. But I'm not going to tell you it till the end, because you got to listen to the whole thing. So I was on my computer making kind of a rough draft, and it's kind of long, so I apologize for that. But
Can I pause here for just a moment and let everybody know that I think you and your daughter got into the park and did a bunch of cleanup for the park. In
Yeah,
case you all didn't
25
realize that
hours cutting.
this is the Vicky that did that.
Oh, wonderful.
I
Thank
spent
you.
25 hours cutting down autumn olives, and I'm not quite done. So if I get Cheryl's blessing, I would like to do more this year. But so my concerns are, I hike the park trails. I don't like this right in front of me because I'm so short. I hike the park trails on a regular basis. I'm native to the area. I know the park for 30 some years, so I've seen it progress. It's made great progress. You know, I know the people that work at the park spend their own money and plant flowers to make it look better, and that's all great. And then they get in trouble for doing it and yada, yada, yada. But with the upcoming opening of the park, I feel like this is like a diamond in the rough, and that when I hear you guys talk, you need networking and resources to help you figure some of this stuff out. So I have some ideas, and then I'll throw out some solutions. So like I said, I hope you get excited by the time I get done. But as you know, everybody complains about the road. It's dusty, bumpy, muddy. People drive fast. And the road commission is going to be putting out their bids real soon to find, you know, who they're going to use and whatnot. And then I understand then the township decides what service they're going to use, what kind of brine they're going to use, and how often. So I am so tired of living with this road after last year, because the first treatment went down July 19th. It lasted 2 days, and then the dust was flaring up. So whatever they paid for, they might as well have just paid for water. Could have had the fire department go and blast it with water.
And did it happen to do that because of the timing of weather, or was it because the brine material
The
wasn't?
brine material did
wasn't
not hold
efficient.
up like any other year. I've never seen it just last 2 days. Sometimes when it doesn't last, it's because then the road's bumpy and the road commission comes and grades it.
Right.
So, but most of the traffic on this road is traffic to the park, campers, boat trailers, and they all go fast. And once that starts getting a little bit of a bump, it just turns into a washboard. It's awful. And people are driving expensive stuff down there. And it's embarrassing to think that's how you greet someone to their vacation at the park, you know, if it is vacation. So I will go to the meeting tomorrow and bring stuff up. So I strongly encourage you to research and determine what happened, maybe consider a different company for the brining, because you certainly did not get the bang for the buck. And follow up to determine if that treatment was adequate, because yeah, people knew it was not good. but I don't know if anything was done about it. It should have been redone. Now, Ron Pappas told me they have a hard time finding someone to put the brine down. So, and I'm not asking to have the road paved, because then it's just gonna be a crazy speed thing. But since all the damage to the road, or the majority of it, comes from the park's traffic, I think the park should be a good neighbor and use some of their funds. And they have money, I know, from looking at the budget stuff, to maybe pay for extra brining of the road. I mean, they're making revenue off of this, but I can't have my windows in my house opened. I can't wash my house every week or every couple weeks. It's ridiculous. And I have trees planted around my property to try to block the dust, but you could walk on that road and you could get run over by a car because it is so dusty. And so that's enough about the dust. And then I wondered about if there was any way, some kind of loophole to maybe reduce the speed of traffic on that road. And I know that's not this board that does that. But that
Is there a
was
sign now up? with
when
the
you get
speed
like
limit?
to the park.
Right, but not in the beginning. So
No.
that's kind of a county. that would be
It's a county
okay.
thing, and that had, I don't know what process it takes to make that happen. These are just my thoughts.
Mhm.
But it sure would be nice if we could slow the traffic down. And there's pedestrians who are crossing the road with the trails and whatnot. So at least on the park part of the property, they should be able to slow that traffic down, which starts near the water or the cell phone tower. So, but that won't help me with the dust at my house. So I'm thinking that until this road issue is effectively dealt with, I really don't think that they should be spending all this money expanding the boat launch and adding extra parking spaces, because the road cannot handle the traffic. I mean, it's like solve a problem before it gets to be a bigger problem. And then I have a lot of concerns about the maintenance of the park and the campground. And I probably have more so than other people because I'm there on a regular basis and I've seen over the years what's been happening. And, the park staff does a great job. I'm not complaining about the park staff, but it's like, is there a procedure manual or a protocol for opening and closing the park?
Mhm.
Because like the last couple years, the picnic tables have not been stood up on end up against trees. So right now you have a campground full of picnic tables that have been left down. They're covered in green algae, black mold, and they're getting all cracked up from exposure from freezing and thawing, the winter damage.
Mhm.
And picnic tables are expensive to replace wood. So it really disturbs me to think that's how guests are going to be greeted to these green, black picnic tables. So I think it's probably unlikely that those could be cleaned up before the park opens. I mean, there's ways to get work done. And I'm not looking to spend money on stuff. I mean, I'm thinking about volunteerism and different things like that. And so I'm not reading all of my notes. I'm just picking out of it. So bear with me. And then the beach area, that erosion control fabric has been exposed for 2 years. There's metal stakes in there. And last year, I didn't know if the beach was opened or closed. It had yellow tape roping it off. So I didn't know what it was. But I mean, that's really embarrassing that you have this prime location and we don't have the beach area fixed up. So And then I know you guys know about the pit toilets. I just think it's not a good use of money if the pit toilets can be fixed. You know, why are we renting porta potties? And how much does that cost? You know, that's not cheap. And let's see. The split rail fences that are around the lake shore and up in the campground, some of them are leaning over, some of them have broken or they're falling apart. The overlook deck is becoming weathered and really could use a good cleaning and sealing. And I'm not saying that you guys gotta do all this stuff, but these are things that I'm noticing that the maintenance is gradually going down and down, and somewhere there has to be an intervention or it's gonna get lost. The stairway that goes near the overlook deck that goes down, it's all covered in leaves. You can't really tell where the steps are. So if anybody's trying to get their workout, that could potentially be a safety issue, liability, because those leaves get wet and slimy and someone could slip and fall. I'd be willing to take my leaf blower and go blow them off, but I'm not going to do that without any permission. And then the road along the west side of the campground is very washed out, uneven. It's dangerous for foot traffic. And since that's right along the campground, people are walking that.
I'm sorry, where was that?
It's the road like where they drive on to take their ashes and stuff. It's on just before you get to the campground.
To the left.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
That road is so uneven. If you drove
Oh,
a
there
car
was a
in there.
huge,
Yeah, if you drove a car in there,
What do
you
you
would
call it?
or a vehicle, you could
Yeah.
bottom it out.
yeah.
Now, I have a tractor. I could go down there and grate the darn thing. But I don't want to get a flat tire if there's glass or something down there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's things I'm willing to do, but I'm not really looking for a job, but I could help with that, but I do not know how to put a crown like they do, the road commission does on the roads. I don't know how to do that. I could just level it.
Mhm.
That's all. So, I mean, there's just all kinds of things. And then the trail system has so many broken limbs. I did clear 3 trees off the trail last year after the storm, and I got in trouble from Cheryl for doing that. But I needed to do that to get my gator through so I could work on the trails. And, but they just don't, it's not attractive in any way. There's so much dead debris and crap. It would be so awesome if someone could come through with a wood chipper, chip that stuff up, throw some of those wood chips on the trail and make them nice, because there are a few muddy areas. And I'm going to be cutting some trees down on my property, and I will have a lot of wood chips that I can donate, and I can even put them on the trail up near the cell phone tower. There's some pretty yucky, muddy area there. But to make a long story short, I had contact with a Whitewater Township resident who writes grants. And I was so excited after I talked to her, and she loves to write grants. And she is offering to write grants for this township for free.
Sign her up.
That's pretty exciting. She made this offer, and it got to Cheryl about 8 months ago. She never heard anything. So I happened to talk to her, and I'm like, holy crap, why aren't we talking to this lady? She knows how to network, how to get you all kinds of people, organize work groups and get donations. It's just unbelievable what she can do. And she said her sister got, what's the Sunrise Academy in Elk Rapids started. but she's very familiar. And to get even more excited, guess what her husband does? He manages the Platte River Campground. And she said it was rated number 4, but I can't remember number 4 of what area. But I thought she said nationwide, but I don't quote me on that.
Mhm.
So,
So he's the manager of Platte River Campground, but they live out here.
mhm. Yep. So she said, and he would be willing to help and advise and give ideas. But she made a real strong point of, it's such a beautiful location. We could turn this into a really nice thing and not have to spend a lot of money. If you get, there's businesses that donate wood chippers. There's businesses that, do community service. She could help get work groups organized. So I'm not coming here just to complain, but I'm really excited to tell you, there's somebody out there who really wants to help. And her name is Sue Moody, Moody. And I have her phone number, but if I'm on Zoom, I don't want to give her number,
That's a good idea.
over that. So, but once again, I really do feel strongly that the park should be a good neighbor and, assist in brining that road. I mean, because they're getting a monetary benefit from it. And I'm getting my house where I can't even have my windows open. So, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Great. Well, hey, we appreciate you coming in and giving us all the updates. Honestly, like we were talking earlier, a lot of the things that go on the park side of the is really out of our hands. Like,
I know that. I'm gathering that from this meeting.
Yeah, and it's
But-
not that it's not that we don't have interest, and it's not that we don't want to make things better and improve things. It's really just we're not in charge of the rangers. We're not in charge of the regular maintenance, day-to-day stuff. We're not in charge, that's really an aspect of
Well,
the,
I'll be talking to the board tomorrow.
yeah, which is
So,
great. And I think that
Um,
that would be very useful.
I guess this just gives me a practice run because I absolutely hate speaking in public. So, but I feel strongly enough and I do very much care about the park. So that's.
And have you offered, I'm curious if you've talked to Cheryl and offered, you said you volunteered to remove the, what were they?
I went to her with that.
I
proposed that to her.
And so she was accepting of that, and she had you sign a little waiver saying you wouldn't sue the township, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and
And my daughter didn't end up helping me very much. I did it myself.
well, and I took
Thank
my
you.
son actually down that trail system as well. Part of his community project, he was in middle school in 8th grade in Elk Rapids, and they do community projects every year. And the community project that he chose was to help do some of the trail improvements for Whitewater Township. And so him and actually my nephew, who also needed some community hours for the Honor Society, they did the signs. Yeah, they helped.
I saw the people out there doing that.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, and
so
then
that was
I had him
awesome.
come back out and we cut some trees and moved some stuff out of this was before the storm though, unfortunately, but it's a regular maintenance thing that we currently don't have. I don't think a person in place, or maybe it's just not in the checklist, right? Of the park, but I don't think we have a person necessarily in place that's really dedicated to go through and keep those trails open. And, there's been a lot of talk about trying to get an actual full-time, director of the full Parks and Rec, and that would really help, having someone assigned fully. I mean, she's the clerk as well as trying to do that. And I think that there's a lot of things I think that takes a lot of time to go to that next level.
Well, I also had in here, with all that's going on in the township right now, I do not believe it's in the best interest of the township to have the clerk split between two jobs. There is so much to focus on right now. The clerk role should come first. And does the clerk have experience knowing what you need to do to maintain parklands? I mean,
Yeah,
what education?
Yeah, I can't
does
answer
she
that.
have? The
I do know
park
they
is
do some
growing,
training.
And, but much to my surprise, nobody knows how to eliminate autumn olives, but I do.
They don't want you to use the chemicals, do they?
Yeah, but you're just taking a paintbrush and putting it on the stump after you cut it down. So it's not like you're spraying it.
Are those the ones that like trail out in, into
They're
the
very
trail system and they're
invasive.
viney?
They're not viney,
They're not viney.
No,
they're
they're,
thorny.
and they've got the
They look
olive
like-
drab green leaves, and then they bloom with beautiful red berries in the fall.
Oh, that's what we were cutting then. Yeah.
And they grow.
They're very
tremendously.
aggressive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and very
The only way to
invasive.
get rid of them is pull them out or do what she's doing with them is dope them with
At
this
the
full
root.
strength Roundup. Very
Okay.
hard.
I
to
think you
kill.
did a great job.
You did.
Thank you. These things have been on my mind a
Now,
while.
one thing, if you get nervous tomorrow about that, that will go down. You can
I
push,
know.
you can push
is-
it down.
I'm not nervous about this. I
Yeah.
just don't want it from, I just don't like to publicly speak. So,
And they will require that, and they will let you know that you had a 5-minute
Oh,
limit,
I
so you
know.
wanna.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know, but this is not.
And they
so
won't
formal.
necessarily have a discussion with you either.
Right,
They-
they'll just listen and move on.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been coming to meetings, so I know, but I just feel like the park is really not in condition right now to open. And then there's a bunch of dirt that's been like dumped in for filled dirt, but it's not finished off near the playground area in the campground. And I don't know what the plan is for that.
There's a plan.
So I'm like, I hope somebody's gonna do something with that, because that's an
That's-
eyesore.
That's on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting as well to move that forward. They,
I think the park opening is that Mother's Day weekend, I
May
think the
6th,
8th,
May
yeah,
6th,
6, 7, and 8. And maybe the idea would be to, because I know that it's free so that they can clean the lots. And maybe they can provide brushes that they can work on the picnic tables too.
Well,
huh?
it'd be nice, because I wouldn't want to eat on that, and I wouldn't want my kids eating on
Yeah.
that.
would it
What's
take,
in there?
would it take sanding it down to get it cleaned up or would it just take some chemicals?
Well, you would need
bleach
like
and-
bleach.
Yeah,
Black mold.
right. Or mildew
and
remover.
brush, Something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
something, but I'm not familiar with what campgrounds do,
Right.
but it could be prevented if you just tip the picnic table up on it.
And that I know is that the park rangers, that is a lot of work for them.
Well, I know, I don't expect Peggy or Dean to do that, right?
Mhm.
They're like 70 years old.
Because when we have the Halloween party, then the fire department guys have volunteered to put the picnic tables up, and that answer is no, because then they have to take them down.
Okay, so what I'm saying is talk to this lady. She can network, she can get a work committee going. She talked about so many things that she could do. I'm like, I am going to the meeting to hear. So, and
You
she
wanna-
hopes that.
Would you mind sharing?
Give her the phone number
with
over
me?
here.
Yeah.
And a
And then
fax?
is it Vicky with an I or Vicky with a Y?
Neither.
IE. That's what I had in one spot, and that looks right. Not that I haven't written your name a whole bunch of times, because I have
Yeah.
over the years. But you're quite helpful.
Well, I don't need to just come with problems. I'd like to bring a solution.
Mhm.
So right here is her number. And she sounds like a go-getter.
Okay, Great. No, I appreciate
Thanks,
that. I
Vicky.
mean, it's, grant writing is one of the big things that gets people moving forward on projects. I mean, whether it's a township or whether it's, you know, a huge corporation or whatever, but you know, you gotta find the money.
Too late for this year is what she was saying.
We are, but you know what? It takes a while to plan for projects and it takes a while to get all those ducks in a row. So it's never too late to start.
We could get a chipper and a work team together, we could clear up a lot of that ugly debris and make it look nice. The autumn olive that I told Cheryl I would only bring down along the trail.
Oh, to remove it, you mean like the dead,
Shred it up.
Yeah.
the dead stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay. All right, so I kind of interrupted at number 7 with my own little side presentation. So let's go into unfinished business. High-grade dugouts. So the board requested to get a site plan. So Cheryl asked me if I could put something together, which I did. We got a copy of that. Essentially, it's just an aerial view of the current area with what is going to be replaced. It's 8 foot technically, but 9 foot with the overhangs. By 24. This is 2 dimension, so if someone wanted to dimension it, I think it's cut off on the side there, but anyway. So I think the next step then I asked her, you know, what we need to do with the contractor who had quoted it. She couldn't get a hold of him, so I went ahead and I texted him. He was unfortunately on his way to Florida on vacation. So he informally said, hey, I think with materials price increases plus adding a fence, it's going to be X amount more. Again, I don't have my phone, Tom.
See, that's okay. There you go.
And he was in today and they talked about it. She's really hoping he'll get the numbers to her for the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, good, because I did have a conversation or a text message with him again to find out if that could be possible. So good. She did. Let me just go through my notes again. Oops. So Lynn had said, you know, he would give us an update, and obviously he's working on that. I did text him his own bill of materials that he didn't have at his fingertips. So he had, you know, the crust and feather and all the items and the quote numbers, so everything. So I was really hoping you could get it to Cheryl by Tuesday. The next step, unfortunately, is that we also have to have an engineer redraw it, which she did. I'll check my notes. She did talk to F&V and they said it was going to be $2,000, which I think personally is ridiculous because they've already got the format of the original drawing, but I understand they have to basically start from scratch because this is wood and it's not metal. But I still think that's a pretty excessive amount for a drawing of a dugout that is as simple as it is. And I don't know what the timing is on it. That's the other frustrating thing. So between that plus the cost of permits, she did she contacted the county. What are they called? Yeah.
Building department.
Yes. The code office. And he did say that it depends on how much the drawing is different from the one that we had already submitted last year. I don't know. He just said that it could be as little as no fees or $55 if it's some variations, or it could be $220. So going with the fact of worst case scenario, $220. Concrete, she was trying to get an updated price from A Plus as of when I talked to her last. She hadn't gotten that yet. Anyway, long story short, in the budget approval, I think it was a budgeted approval of $16,000. I don't know why it changed from what we had asked for last year, 2 years ago, because we had a quote for $18,000 and we asked for 21 and it was approved.
I think you got a quote and you asked, I've got this right here. We asked for $18,000, which included some contingency money.
No, it was 18, but then we bumped it up to 21 for contingency.
Oh, well, maybe it changed after I printed this out, but yeah, because this one from her actual meeting request. Oh, this is from 2020.
Yeah, and I think before
I
she
didn't realize that we went back last year with the change. I didn't think we ever went back.
Yeah, because budget had to be approved again, so.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, but getting budget approved versus this was like a motion of approval. And this was the one that was $14,000 of estimated cost. And then she asked and have approval for project not to exceed 18,000. But in the meantime, you've done a couple of these items, like the demolition and the benches are complete.
yeah,
So you
those
would
portions, yeah.
Deduct that.
But with the cost of the increases of materials, increase of the labors that we're expecting, the $2,000 for drawings, the cost of the re-permits, did I already say the concrete? Anyway, it's really gonna be pushing 16.
Well,
And
she's asking for 15 tomorrow, just so you know.
15. Yeah, I thought it was 16. So that's even worse. So one of the options that she's going to, I don't know how she's going to phrase it to the board. One of the things that she was considering is, do we eliminate the concrete for the initial, if they want to approve the budget for everything? So I'm not sure how that's going to pan out, or maybe we don't do the fencing. I mean, that could be an easy add-on later as well. I did get an optional concrete budget number, and it actually falls right in line with a little bit less actually than what we expect the concrete A+ to come out at. So we'll see on that, but so anyway, that's kind of the nutshell of where things are at with the dugout. The kids start May.
It's in your phone.
It's probably in my phone.
There you go.
Probably right. Boy, I thought I wrote the date.
You gotta use Google Calendar on your phone and computer.
I know. All right, I can't find the notes. Anyway, I want to say they start practicing mid-May and their first games start June 1st. Pretty confident that's what I was told. I think it's really going to be pushing the timeline between getting a drawing done, getting it to the permits office, and them to approve it, getting Lynn then to actually do it. She told me that Lynn had estimated 3 weeks to do the actual construction. I'm not sure. That's what he said. So anyway, so my biggest concern is it's not going to be before June 1st. I have been communicating with Amber, and I told her I would let her know what I could find out about that. But as of right now, because she's part of the baseball little league.
But they can just pick up the bench and move it so the kids can sit down.
I mean, right, they have a bench area. It's, but right, while we're constructing it, it's going to be a matter of,
inconvenient, but they
Yeah.
don't die, they can still use the field.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't understand why we always get plugged up against the state. I mean, I realize we have the frost problem, but it seems like, I mean, this has been the same discussion for the last 3 years. It seems like, it creeps up on us.
Well, again, to get the budget, until we got the budget approved, then
But
to
if
go
you had
forward.
Spent it by March.
You know, that's a very good point. If we would have, if we could have. Yeah, we tried. We pushed it last year. We did try. Okay, so that's the update on dugouts. Any updates or comments or anything else? Speaking of Amber, and this is probably, I should have said in the communications. Cheryl did send me a note just to say that she wasn't going to be able to make the meeting tonight. She did want to let everybody know, I think it was in an email form, but that we did get the Michigan DNR approval for our rec plan. So that is good news. All of our hard work and efforts to move that into getting approved, it's been approved. Which is of course why I want to continue with the planning so we can go for some grant money. She said the budget process was as you witnessed it. I'm very thankful that you were there to speak on behalf of the Parks and Rec. Da, 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 da. Okay, and then Amber Voice. So I did, per our last meeting, we talked about her as a potential applicant for the Parks and Rec Committee. I did talk to her, told her we would be willing to change the meeting from Mondays to Tuesdays. She submitted, I don't have the exact date she submitted. I could probably tell you, but I think it was about 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. According to Cheryl, that she asked for, that was sent to everybody, the application for the appointment, and she asked for it to be placed in the board packet. It's not on the agenda item for tomorrow's meeting. So she's hoping Ron will bring her name forward soon, is what she said. So, which is extremely frustrating because, as you guys know, people being sick, out of town, yada, yada. It's more and more challenging when we don't have a quorum to have meetings. But then Ken was another one that applied. Can you tell me about Ken? Because that was blank. Did he submit an application?
See, I thought that she was sending it to me because it was done. I never opened it.
Oh, because okay, so
And
her
it turns
comment,
out that she was just including me in the email, like
That
letting
she
me know that
sent
he had requested it.
okay, so he
'Cause I've been
requested
working
it.
on him for years.
Okay, and Ken is on a committee now?
He's on the ZBA
He's on the ZBA.
and he has worked for the state with Pugsley, and then when they closed, he went over to someplace else, but it was recreation. So he's got some, recreation background, and he does skiing, he does ski patrol stuff, and
Okay. All right. Yeah, that was just I didn't know. That was the first thing I had time I had heard his name, so I wasn't
Oh.
sure, but then it was blank.
yeah,
I was like,
I didn't even know it was blank till you said
There's
that,
something
and I
there.
opened it. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I guess then we potentially have two, which is great because like I said, we need to have another person and then also have the alternate, so. Okay, great. See.
And she did, I have it in there if you want to look at it. And actually that would be something to do, is the board policy ordinance, the ordinance that says that this is, and then there's the bylaws.
Mhm.
And she thinks that they may not be
Matching.
matching right now. So it would be
Well, I
good.
think the
She
last
printed
time
'em.
we went through the bylaws that we found that it wasn't matching. There was
Right, with the number of
number of people.
alternates.
Yeah, and the number, having alternates.
And the date, one of the things says that it's the second Monday and the other one doesn't, which
Oh,
might be fine.
mhm.
It might be that's just the that's in the bylaws. And so you guys can make a change to the bylaws, but you can't make a change to the ordinance.
Oh, I see.
So, and that is in there. I mean, they still have to approve it,
Yeah,
but if you went to the second Tuesday, there are no evening meetings on the second Tuesday.
yeah, right. No, that's I did check that out.
So it's not like you'd have to request them to make an ordinance change.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see how that whole thing plays out and if we can get her name out there and approved by the board. So until then, it is, status quo. We got a copy of Ken's email or letter after meeting with Cheryl at Whitewater Township Park and inspecting the existing structure. I feel the structure is sound enough to be considered for remodel. Yes, the building will need a new roof and be reconfigured to accommodate the new porta-johns and storage closets. And then there was an attachment. It has a Medler electric template on it, but it's just basically for the squares that he used it, which shows essentially taking the existing framework and utilizing that, but turning it into having independent porta potties, more or less built in. So making improvements, hopefully to the disgusting pit that's been there for 50 years.
Yeah, but we don't have any say over that. though.
We don't.
Okay.
I mean, we could look at this and have
We're
our
advisory
opinion and blah, 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 but ultimately, unless we have a builder's license and can point out some serious flaws, I'm not sure what we really have
To offer.
to
that.
offer.
Right.
Yeah.
I was concerned that he was maintaining this, it looks like 25 feet of grass before, and this has been an elevated piece of decking. And I was really concerned as far as, I don't think that meets the handicap accessibility. I would be really concerned about that. Like, how are they supposed to jump their wheelchair up on this 4 foot or on this 4 foot piece of decking? Like, if you look at it right now, it's extremely dilapidated, like the top surface of the decking.
Well, wouldn't it be a ramp?
I think
Wouldn't
it's
that
about-
4 by
that's
12 be a
not-
ramp?
That's not what it says.
No, this is a flat sheet of paper.
Well, I know that,
This
but
is
it
an
doesn't indicate that it's a ramp. It just,
Yeah. 'cause
and
it's a plan
today,
view.
current state, I don't believe it is a ramp, but maybe it's a little hard to tell because all of the top surface is gone. Like missing if you go look at.
So okay, so you're saying it's elevated. What shows that it's elevated?
Currently, I'm just making this comment based on what's currently there.
Okay.
Is like a 4 foot wide piece of decking that's about 12 feet long. And it's just like on the ground, okay?
Okay.
But there's like a step, like a 6-inch step.
To get up to it. I see. Yeah. Gotcha.
So it's just a small thing, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping that they would make that a ramp or take it all the way to the.
Well, they're
pavement.
having a handicap accessible
I know, I saw
porta
that.
john, so I would hope that it would be a ramp style, but. They ripped out? I don't know why. Again, unfortunately, we're not always in the privy on what's going on over there.
Mhm.
You probably do. You could probably give me the historical of what the teepee thing is about. Okay, what's the teepee thing about? Okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay. So the playground area, in order to move forward to get the budget approved, it was requested by Ron to have a dimensional plan, site plan of the moving of the playground equipment. And so, again, Cheryl asked if I could help facilitate that, so I took time out of my regular workday to do that. Essentially, I, again, took a Google Earth image, scaled it, took all of the notes from the gentleman who came and did our evaluation a number of years ago, and made sure we were well within anything setback wise that he had discussed. And you can see where I've got anything that's called minimums. That is truly the minimum spacing requirement. We far exceed those with how it's drawn out. In the circle, like around the merry-go-round, the orange part is the actual merry-go-round. The circle around it is the actual safety zone, so to speak. Which obviously we don't have any structures even close to that. There at the meeting, at the budget meeting, Ron had made an issue of the slide, and that there wasn't dimensions on that. And so because they didn't want to engage me directly, I spoke during the public portion of the meeting and said, we don't know what the slide's going to be. The slide could be a 2-foot tall slide. It could be a 7-foot tall slide. Those clearances, those zoning safeties will be dependent on what we choose as a slide. So I simply put it in there as a place marker, and there is certainly way enough zoning clearance, even if we pick the tallest one. But I didn't put those dimensions on there for that reason, because frankly, I don't know what they would be at this time. And then I also put in future tables, picnic tables, because that is something that Cheryl was, looking to potentially try to get added into that area. Again, I don't have sizes on that, so it was just a circle. So do you guys have any comments or questions on kind of what I did? It's kind of hard to read some of this. Sorry, like the blue is a swing set. The orange is the merry-go-round. The green was the monkey bars. Pink was the future slide.
Trying to get this done, I assume also by the time.
This was set to be done, and then there was flowing down from the board to basically have to have a site plan and yada yada, and but it went through from a budget standpoint, and I think that was ultimately now this is on the packet for tomorrow night, or tomorrow day, So hopefully there's no issues that this can move forward, so we can have a really good playground and all that dirt and stuff can be spread around. I think she said that there was a road that also, from a maintenance standpoint, a road that also had to be fixed in here. I don't remember the details
I
on
saw that in the
that.
packet too, but I wasn't fully
Yeah,
sure where that is.
I didn't ask too many questions on that, so. Okay. Anything else about park playground or pit toilets? We kind of talked about both of those at the same time. All right. This is supposed to be a short meeting, guys. All right, so projects for 2022. Well, I think our only project that we can really fundamentally try to move forward is, well, maybe a couple things. I do think the way the trail is currently with Lossie and BCNA, they're separated. We had kind of gone back and forth on the mapping aspect of it. Do we wait, try to change things, merge things, or whatever? I think that that's far enough out that for the amount of money for a trail map, I think I would like to probably just move forward as it is currently. Have the same placard, so you can kind of see both of them, is my thought. Maybe we'll have to wait and see what the design people come up with, if that seems reasonable. But if you guys are good with that, I'm gonna try to push forward and give that information to Cheryl to get it done up by the what did we have to do before 360 sign.
So you're saying similar to this old one from 2019, this one had the trail maps on it.
Correct.
So you're
Except
gonna
for
do
in-
something similar to that.
Except for the same format that we did.
Right, the new
park,
format.
The new, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
And
that'll probably save you a setup charge too. Right. save you a little bit of money.
Or like if we change it, you mean, down the road?
Also, though, I think they have a setup charge every time you create a design. There's a setup charge
Yeah.
and then a charge per.
Reproduction. Oh, I see what you're
reproduction.
saying, because we're splitting between two trails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I would
Mhm.
question is, yeah, I'm not sure how much of this is obliterated, how much of Battle Creek. Like this was pretty,
You mean
Pretty-
because of the trees?
yeah, but this was pretty weird finding your way.
Oh, it was.
And this
Absolutely.
was like 3 years ago. It was hard to find your way through there.
No, and the way the map would be now is it would just stop.
Just be this loop. Just be
Well, no,
like
it
the
would
same-
come, it would
like
come
C.
this way, but because it is still maintained to come this way. In fact, when Devin did his park trail upgrade project, we put a bench. So where the trail splits and it was the one that went off to the water and then the other one went off to the pond.
Right.
We put a bench there and then there's also a field that deer tend to play in. So that was kind of
Okay.
the theory there. So the hopes, once we really engage like with land conservancy people and some of the other smarter people about how to make a good trail.
Right.
The hopes is that we can utilize that direction and get safely to the water access again. I mean, that's really the goal. So at this point in time, I just think it's gonna take that time, money to progress. And so I don't wanna, I'd like to have a nicer trail mapping for people to understand really what they're walking on, because right now there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Which is not appropriate.
Which is not appropriate. And assuming the tree people do their job and the trails don't change dramatically after that, and I don't expect it to, then I guess I don't see the downfall of putting up a trail other than the cost of revising it down the road, but
But they weren't even that expensive.
I don't remember. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't seem that expensive, but. So anyway, so as long as you guys, are good with that, that's kind of one of the projects that I would like to continue moving forward is making sure, kiosks are updated with information and that those maps are done in that more professional way, which would also mean, and this probably would end up having to be a volunteering project, if we did multiple markers on the trail. I think on BCNA, we had talked about 2. I have to look back at my notes now. Lossy, I think probably just one on each end is sufficient. So that's one project.
So did we complete the action back when we had the conservancy guy came to our meeting? I don't remember exactly when that was, probably last fall sometime. I thought there was an action that he needed like some kind of a official document from the board to get on his like list of things to do. Remember, like he needed a communication from the township saying, yes, we want to work with you. And I was just wondering if that ever happened. Like, did
I
he
remember him talking about.
get what he needed in
Let me
order
go
to
back to my
say?
notes. Steve Lingerquist. I don't have that in my notes. I know that he talked about there is to get the DNR, the Eagle, to evaluate the project would require going on their website and submitting, oh, here it is. I met with him July 14th.
But then he came to. one
And then
of
he came to our meeting,
meetings,
yeah, but
yes.
this is kind of all my notes about it. Yeah, he had said the Eagle would be able to meet possibly with our contractor to walk the area and give an assessment of the land. It would cost $150 to do this. Cheryl did attempt to go on there, the My Waters account, and it was going to require things like a site location map, project plans, wetland delineation, things that she was not comfortable with, nor had any, expertise in. So it kind of fell at that point to not move forward. I did,
But I think there's like two different things. There's the DNR thing and there's the conservancy thing. And I thought for the conservancy thing, he said he was all booked for this calendar year, but that we needed to like get him some kind of official notice so that we could be
Mhm.
planned into. You remember this?
I remember that.
So that we could get planned into his 2023 schedule, which it seems like way out in the future.
was
but
that for him to evaluate the moving the trail systems?
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I know he touched on the DNR piece too.
Mhm.
However, I think you almost needed him to do his job in order for you to then apply for the DNR stuff.
Not necessarily, because we're kind of almost talking two different projects, right? So the lossy end wet area is
Yeah.
kind of the one that we really need the Eagle to weigh in on, because that's more about, you know, do we put a culvert? Do we do a bridge?
Mhm.
And they need to kind of give us an assessment on that. At least that was the take. The walking trail part of it to reestablish, maybe should it be moved to a different location, something that's maybe less maintenance. He would talk a lot about things like
Put it in the
mowing
woods,
and
yeah.
put it in the woods, have it in areas that it's not going to be as much of a maintenance nightmare. It'll be more of a self naturing trail with people walking on it. And you might be right. I don't have it written down that he needed something in writing. But you might be right on that. And you remember him saying
I
that?
remember talking about that.
Okay.
And that was in July.
No,
was here,
That'd be
when he was
whenever
here.
he was at our
July.
meeting.
no, it wasn't. It was when he
Oh, here it
came.
is. So this is minutes. He was here on October 11th.
Yes.
Yeah. The it says right here, the Land Conservancy can help in 2023. They need an official request for assistance from the township. So my question is, I didn't know if Cheryl was sufficient to get that done, or if she had to get some kind of board approval. I would think as the Parks Administrator, she could just do that. I don't remember if Cheryl attended this meeting or not.
And so will you reread that statement again?
It just says Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy is likely to be able to help with establishment of the trails through the woods to reduce maintenance in 2023. They need an official request for assistance from the township to the conservancy. And then it talks about this other thing that you talked about, get the pre-op with Eagle for $150. And Steve mentioned trust fund grants for trail systems. Lois's notes.
Yeah, and again, that whole trust fund, it goes back to the Michigan DNR grant, 5-year rec plan and.
Eagle review, $150 for a site review.
Yeah, that was what Cheryl did try to go or evaluated Michigan grants or whatever that website was. Anyways, there was too much information that was needed. That was above her pay grade in terms of knowing, you know, site location and wetlands delineancy or
Well,
whatever it was.
maybe-
So that in order for them to even come.
Yeah, maybe somebody from the conservancy could help us fill that out.
Well,
But anyway,
so-
it sounds like there's open issues here in order to, like, to your point, as far as getting going on planning stuff.
yeah.
We need to get those things moving in order to have a chance for doing it next year.
Well, so I know you weren't at the meeting. We did have a gentleman come to our meeting on,
What was the last meeting?
I was just trying
It
to
was the
remember.
14th of March, because that's in the minutes that
Oh.
didn't get approved.
Cool. Too many notes. Oh, man. Sorry.
Steve Largent
It's the one who came.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Largent, yes, absolutely. He's with the Grand Traverse Conservation District. He presented to us and talked about all these other projects that he's done throughout the county. He had a lot to do with the Boardman River trail systems and the reallocation of how the rivers were going. And he's extremely knowledgeable. I mean, the way he talked, obviously he's been doing it quite a while. Anyway, what they will do is they can come and help things like trail clearing. They can do log fencing for trailheads. They can do bridges on rivers. They can do, and he talked about a lot of different projects anyway. So I have set up a time with him to meet at Lossie I think Brandon was going to try to attend also. Now this is where I can go to Google Calendar, so I don't need my phone for that. I have the technology. Oh, it was May, that's right. So it is May.
Because you were gonna go look at the Park Beach also. That was just gonna be. a quick
Yes,
stop.
that was going to be a quick stop, yes. Why don't I have it? Maybe I don't have it.
Well, you won't know until you get your phone.
I'm gonna say that it was that first week in May, but it is not in my Google Calendar, which is really unusual. But anyway, oh, actually, I probably have an email from them. I can just look that up. Steve Largent.
Let's do a walkthrough on what did you call that?
Just to walk
Evaluation. There we go.
walk through, right, and evaluate the trail. He sent us some pictures. Oh yeah, he did. They actually did one of the kiosk things at Whitewater Township like 20 years ago or something at the park. May 2nd. Oh, I know why, because he was going to send me an invite. Hmm. I obviously did not get an invite.
Wet area.
Yeah. So I just requested it again. Anyway, so May 2nd is tentatively what we had talked about, which I think is before a meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah, our meeting's the following week, so. And part of the funding, the budget funding was that their group, does a lot of the contract work. So we might not even have to go to an extreme of, bidding out contractors, and they've got equipment and stuff like that. And their rates seem to be reasonable. When he spoke, I think it was
I think it's like $40 per work hour, per man hour.
sounds about right. It's thinking somewhere around 40 or 50. So anyway, so that was very positive, to have someone who's so knowledgeable and is willing to really not just give kind of advice, but like he would be the person who would go to getting the permits, and he would help assist in.
So he could help with that whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was very exciting. And then the balloon got popped when I heard about our budget. So just discouraged. But anyway, because as of right now, I mean, I kid you not, the last time I tried to walk down Lossie Trail, there were weeds throughout the entire wetland trail system that was above my head.
So this brings up that next thing I really wanted to talk about is I don't think last year we had a contractor mowing Lossie or BCNA.
We did.
And I don't understand why this is in the budget. But like those autumn olives that Vicky was talking about out, they're taken over, especially the grassy meadow portion of Lossy Trail. And even though we have to get this wood cleared out, there's no reason why definitely the east side of the trail is pretty clear because there's a lot of meadow areas in there and stuff. There's no reason why that can't be maintained prior to wood removal. Like, I'm really concerned that it was encroaching a lot and, you know, they're gonna have to take a big bush hog down there to whack them babies down because
They
they were
are.
growing a lot.
Yeah. No,
So yes, I walked the
agree.
entire length of it last November and
Lossy.
climbed through all those trees.
I was
yes.
gonna say, I know that the tree, what was that, August? That happened
The
in
storm was
August?
in August. I
Yeah.
walked through there in November. That's when I sent you those pictures of the bridge and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So I think it was, I don't remember the time frame. I know that she had contracted someone to go and do the mowing maintenance. I don't remember the details
You mean for this year?
for last year.
But I don't think it ever happened though. I mean, it was clear that it had not been mowed.
I was told, I thought that BCNA did get mowed. Lossy couldn't because he couldn't get the equipment down there because of the pond situation.
Oh, and if
The water.
if they approached from the west, that's possible versus approaching from the east.
Right. But yes, it definitely was.
But the
was a
really
point
bad
of
part with
maintenance.
those autumn olives was on the east
East
portion,
side, yeah.
after the bridge.
And so just taking, it sounds to me like just taking a brush hog to those is really not gonna be enough.
The bush hog can take down like.
I,
4 inch.
for them not to continue to grow is,
Oh, yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
So, I
they
mean,
will
it really-
re-sprout, yes.
it really needs to be a cutback maintenance, and then it needs to be a true removal of,
Dopey.
yeah, of,
That's what I. What would you call it?
of gently telling them to die. So, okay, yeah,
Maybe you could probably
so,
help with that. After the brush hog goes through, then you could come and paint those stumps.
Yeah, but it has to be done right away.
Yeah.
There is no.
Oh, that's
Oh.
interesting.
10 minutes is a long time.
Interesting. Okay, see, I didn't know that.
Good to know.
And you know, the other thing, I hate to keep adding to the pile of crap about this Lossy Trail, but trying to cut back anything in the summer, the bugs are just unbelievable back in there during the summer. Well, you got it before they chase you out of there. It's really, really bad. So like getting down there soon.
yeah, that's why I wanted to go as early as I could, and May might not be early enough.
I think it's probably still relatively okay.
Yeah.
Early.
What was it, 41%? What was it called? Oh, it's just Roundup, okay. All right.
And how do you get that? Or should we shut the microphones off first?
Just go get it on the golfs.
Oh,
They're the ones who told me about
And it needs to be done right on the base of the stalk, right?
it, right where you cut it.
Mhm.
And I cut some 4 years ago with this method.
Okay, anything you, so the maintenance on Lossy, BCNA, and there were you two.
Yeah, I
others.
guess if we can just check with Cheryl, does she have a contractor for it?
Yeah.
It's important that it gets done and
Oh, absolutely.
I can't remember different times I've heard her go through mowing contracts for like all the various township property and for the park. I'm not sure if it can be the same.
Well, we had talked about that, adding it into the maintenance of that whole lawn maintenance contract to do, because they also do Tobacco.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do the Tobacco parking lot as well.
And he did do that.
What's that?
They did do that.
They
last
did
year.
do that. And that was the other thing too. I don't know if ever got done, is there was a huge divot crater going into the parking lot off of Angel Road into Tobacco.
Steve Jarvis.
I think they took care of that.
Did they? Okay, yeah. I knew it had been talked about. I didn't know if it actually gotten accomplished, so.
I drove up there. And my car didn't bottom out. Maybe, did I just?
But did you do it on a skinny
Miss.
tire bike like I tried to do?
No.
It didn't work so well. That was earlier in the season. That
I was
wasn't
thinking
fall.
maybe I went when it was done,
Yeah.
when it had already been
After
done.
fall. Okay, I will send an email to her on the maintenance, make sure that that is included. Anything else in terms of projects? I think, like I said before, our hands are fairly tight on any project funding. I don't think we're really gonna be able to do too much more than that. If any of you are interested in going, attending the May 2nd Lost Sea Trail walk down, send me an email and I can tell you the time and place and yada, yada. Okay, proposal to change meeting dates. We kind of already talked about that. We first need to establish, I guess, if she's gonna be accepted by the board, and then we can go from there. But we all kind of talked about that before, that was okay within our scheduling to change that. If we need to change something regarding ordinance and or
I did print
The
that. I'll give that to you and maybe you can go
bylaws.
through it.
the ordinance,
Yeah, the two articles, the two pieces of paper,
okay.
to see if they're, make sure they're
I know that they
in
didn't.
alignment.
Yeah, I know that they didn't match in a number of ways once we started going through the bylaws, because it's nothing that we had ever done
Mm-mm.
previously, so that. Yeah, so anyway. Anything else? Next meeting is May 2nd, or excuse me, May 9th. May 2nd is our
Yeah, you said there's
trail
a
tour.
Lost Sea Trail walk down.
May 2nd.
What time is it?
I don't know, because Steve was supposed to send me an invite,
You're gonna email us all that stuff.
and I just emailed him to get an update, so.
Maybe when you get that, just email.
Yeah, I can do that. I know Brandon had said he would make time if he could to come and walk it as well. And then he also wanted to go, or Cheryl. I mean, I think wanted to meet us maybe even at the beach to look at that as a potential.
With the same person or?
Yeah. So he can kind of give us, assistance on how we can get that rectified easily, efficiently, hopefully without a lot of legal issues.
Well, I have a family reunion coming up in August and I'd like
It better be done
I'd like
before
it
then.
workable by then.
You know what?
Please.
Maybe it's the Shawshank thing. You have to walk with pockets full of sand every day and just dump it right at the beach area. On a regular basis. Okay, anyway. All right, public comment. Anything else? Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate you taking the time to come to our boring little meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
What's the second?
Second,
All right. So
Robert's
adjourned.
rules say you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, we really don't.
Oh, good.
But it sounds good.
It does.
It's
Once
fun
you
to
have a
do. We're out of
motion-
here.
Once you have a motion. 8:45, I was 15 minutes early.
Brandon would have